GBNews. I'm joined in the studio by Mark Francois, Member of Parliament for the Conservatives for Rayleigh and Wickford, European Research Group Chairman, and of course ex-army, somebody very concerned with defence, British forces. Tobias Ellwood, the chair until a few hours ago of the Defence Committee, made a pretty erratic statement, I thought, about the Taliban effectively stabilising Afghanistan and doing a good job. And he stood down as chair of that committee today, I suspect before committee members forced him out. Just get your reaction to that, please.
It was a difficult meeting, Nigel, I think for everybody, and it wouldn't be right for me to give you a sort of blow-by-blow account. I don't think that would be appropriate. I do think, though, Tobias has taken the right decision. To be fair, under his chairmanship, the committee, published some really hard-hitting reports about, things like equipment in the army. Under his chairmanship, we really were having an impact, but because of this video, I think he felt in the end that he had to resign. The only thing I would add, because he's issued a statement...
So it's right that he's gone?
I think it was the right decision. He's issued a statement that stands on the record. The only thing I would add as a member of the committee is that we're all conscious, and I think Tobias is too, that video caused a great deal of angst, pain to veterans who fought in Afghan. It was a war, and we lost a lot of people, and we had many more who were very seriously wounded. And to them and to their families and their loved ones, we're all very sorry for any pain that this may have caused, and hopefully now we can begin to move forward. But we're all conscious of that, and I think, to be fair, so is Tobias.
OK. He got it wrong, he's gone, and in many ways I think that's the right thing too. Mark, I mentioned a moment ago Ben Wallace, our former Defence Secretary, who, and I think I was right in what I said in the introduction, he did command respect, I think, from both sides of the House.
Correct.
He was somebody who cared about the job, loved the job, actually was in the job for rather a long time.
The longest ever serving Tory Defence Secretary, I think.
Yeah, and given that last year you had 5 education secretaries, it's quite nice to see some people that actually stay. But he's gone, and I suspect it's the change of his constituency boundary that's forcing him out of Parliament.
Well, at the end of the day, you'd have to ask Ben. But, I mean, let me put it like this. I mean, I think he said in one interview that... Because, remember, he'd been the security minister for, was it 2 and a bit years before he was Defence Sec for 4. And I think it summed it up very well. And he said, when he went to bed at night, he had 3 phones by his bed. One was his personal mobile, one was his departmental mobile, and the other one was the top secret phone. And he told me a few days ago, even now, when he gets out of a car, he sort of pats himself down, have I got all my... Even though he knows he hasn't got all the same phones. So he more than stood his watch. He was very widely regarded. It is true to say, if Ben had not been the Defence Secretary prior to the Russian invasion, because he saw it coming, call it a soldier's instinct, call it what you will, he sensed what was going to come. He took on the blob, he took on the Cabinet Office and the Foreign Office to get those NLAWs to the Ukrainians and to give them time to train on them. Remember, we've been training Ukrainians in Britain since 2014, I think, at Operation Orbital. If they had not had those NLAWs, but bearing in mind what we now know about the first 40,000...
And these are the weapons that were taking out the tanks?
Yeah, basically a sort of modern bazooka.
And in the defence of Kyiv, they were enormously effective. If
Ben had not forced the issue and made sure that the Ukrainians had those weapons, the Russians would be having dinner in Kyiv tonight. I believe that to be absolutely true.
That may well be true. But he's gone. And, in some ways, as you say, he more than did his bit. Enormously popular with the Tory faithful. He's gone, he's retiring, but he's now speaking out frankly. And, this is quite strong stuff, Mark Francois. I'm going to repeat it. It bears repetition. The ECHR has become a serious risk to national security and is thwarting our efforts to stop terrorists. And yet your party seems to be utterly committed to continued membership of an organisation that is threatening our national security. Don't we need to do something about this?
I think we do.
Do
Now,
you?
Yes. Nigel, I'm not going to insult your intelligence. You well know there are some people in the Tory cabinet who regard the ECHR as holy writ.
Yeah.
But I think events have evolved in such a way that we do need to revisit this. The boats issue, and Ben was making a separate point, but on the boats issue, what we should have done from the outset was what we did on prisoner voting, and we should have just said, thank you very much, this is none of your business. You're overreaching, is what we should have told the Strasbourg court. We are not going to accept your authority in this cross-channel scenario. We will do what we have to do to protect our borders.
Mark Francois, we didn't do it.
I know that, Nigel, but that's what I think we should have done.
No. Listen, I won't disagree with that, and I'm sure most of our viewers won't disagree with that, but we didn't do it. You see, I'm getting back to this point. Ben Wallace is outlining the ECHR. I mean, he calls it lunacy. And yet, should we leave? Oh, no, let's stay members of it. And it reminds me, as I say, of the old Tory Eurosceptics. Everything's dreadful about the European Union, but we should stay as members.
Well, not this Tory Eurosceptic, mate.
No, but but I mean, at the time you were Europe minister, it's a long time back. The point I'm making is the party doesn't seem to have the courage of the logical conclusions that have been reached by, as you say, the longest-serving Conservative defence minister who's been involved in the war on terror, on counter-terrorism. And it's all well and good you sitting here and saying we should revisit it. What in God's name does that mean?
All right, look, you've basically got three positions. One, we continue as we are. Mm-hmm. The second position is that we say in certain areas we will delineated areas, we will no longer accept the authority of the Strasbourg court. And there's a precedent on prisoner voting.
I remember it very well.
Okay, and I think certainly in the boat scenario we should do that, and I think in some of the scenarios that Ben was outlining for reasons of national security, and as you say, he's a man who's got a right to have an opinion, we should do that too. And then if you like, the third option is that we leave the ECHR altogether.
Okay. Tell me why we should stay in.
Well, hang on, you didn't. I said there are three options.
We do. You've just laid them out.
Right. So
why should we stay in? What are the benefits to staying in?
Well, I'm not saying we should. You didn't ask me that.
Well, I'm just about to.
Oh, okay.
What do you think we should do?
Well, speaking personally, to be very clear, speaking as Mark Francois, I would now, given the events of the last few years, given the boats, given what Ben has said about national security, I'm prepared to contemplate that we should leave.
To contemplate we should leave?
Yes.
Will this be in the Conservative manifesto?
I'm not in the government, Nigel.
Do you want it to be in the Conservative manifesto?
I would like it to be.
Would it be a referendum or something that... I mean, would it be a referendum vote or something that a majority Conservative government...
No, Nigel, I'm not going to sit here and make all that up off the cuff. I mean, you wouldn't...
Our people want to know.
Look, I think that the current position is unsustainable, right? The Prime Minister faithfully promised the British people he was going to stop the boats. Well, he hasn't stopped them yet, and everybody knows it.
Yep.
So we're going to have to do something different. I think we now need to have what you might call a national debate about the ECHR. And if the Strasbourg court continue to overreach their powers, then it may be that we have to leave.
All right. Mark Francois, thank you. They get there in the end. It takes them a very, very long time, but they get there in the end. We all know what Mark Francois really thinks. Of course we do. We all know what Ben Wallace really thinks. Of course we do. And I do expect there'll be something in the next Conservative manifesto. How sincere it'll be, I don't know, but I do suspect that it will be there.